In episode 6, Stella has returned and she has a meeting with Celine. Celine never bringing up what she knows about Stella and Marcus's affair. But Stella has come with not so great news. The AI tech that she was looking at in Atlanta, it doesn't really work. I mean, it kind of works, but it's unpredictable. It's kind of all over the place, and it's not going to be ready for the Olympics. And their star host, Chris, is threatening to hold out. She's got a lot of leverage now with the recent interview from the bro. There's a lot of public support behind her, and she's trying to use that leverage. If Chris Hunter won't go to the Olympics, that is going to be a big blow for UBN, especially because they're set to host 300 reporters who are going to question them about the upcoming Olympic Games and UBN's coverage of those games. So it's at the utmost importance that Stella smooth things over with Chris, and more importantly, Chris's people, which now include Mia. Celine reiterates how important it is that they fix this solution and quickly, and then she leaves the office, leaving Stella to essentially do her job. She scheduled a meeting later that day with Mia and Marcus, and what Chris wants is editorial control over the coverage, but Stella says that's not happening, that's not a thing. And they point to people like the bro and like Alex Levy, but Stella has reasons for that. The bro basically being such a cash cow that he can do what he wants, and she's not in charge of him anyway because he's not news. And Alex, well, she doesn't have editorial coverage. She's just an executive. That's not really good enough for either Mia or Marcus, and the conversations are really getting nowhere, with Stella basically having nothing to offer these two. These conversations, though, get so contentious that Stella asks Marcus to leave so that her and Mia can just hash it out together. At first, Stella tries to play hardball, but Mia says, No, you brought Cory Ellison back in the building and then gave him a bunch of money and told us that there is none? What is that? Stella tries to point out that Cory will be making movies and it's different, but Mia says, no, it's not different. Because when you got this job, you said that things would be different. But in reality, you're no better than the Cory Ellisons of the world. You talked about helping diverse people and helping people of color, but you haven't done any of that. And then she leaves. Stella then has to go break the news to Alex, and she walks down the hall where Alex is in the middle of having a meeting with Cory. Cory has been frazzled ever since Bradley told him about the Wolf River situation and, more importantly, what happened to that lawyer. He's got his assistant looking into any matters, in particular with his fixer and Fred Micklin, but then he goes and talks to Alex about it. He wants to reassure that he had nothing to do with covering up anything. He's convinced that this is yet another hurdle and he's just being attacked for just being him. He can't figure out why. So he's kind of come hat in hand to Alex to just get reassurance that he's not a bad person. And one of the points that he makes is, Alex, you were here. I mean, do you ever remember hearing anything about this Wolf River situation? And she admits, no, I don't. I'll tell you what I do remember. I remember being at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and there were a lot of network people there, and about 2 weeks later, Fred told us that it was you, which was a really curious hiring move because you were the head of entertainment, now you're going to be the head of news. It didn't make much sense at the time. Alex is implying that Cory must have had something on Fred, but he says, no, I didn't have anything on him. I mean, I just got the job. And the reality is Cory never wondered how he got the job. He just gladly took it. But that's when the two were interrupted by Stella, who has to give Alex the bad news regarding Chris. She pulls Alex to the side and says, yeah, look, it doesn't seem like Chris is heading to the Olympics, so we need someone who could stand up on stage with you, and I have an idea. He already said no, but you didn't talk to him. And that person is the bro. It's not a great idea, but it's an idea nonetheless, and he would bring in a much-needed different demographic. So even though Alex hates it, it does make sense, and that night she heads to a comedy club where the bro is performing to pitch him. He ends up noticing her in the crowd during his set, and he shouts her out, but at the end of the set, they get together, and she pitches him on the idea of getting up there with her in Paris, all of that. He still doesn't want to do it. So Alex says, okay, well, what do you want? And what he wants is the debate. He wants to slowly move into politics. He wants people to see him more than just a sports douchebag. So in order to do Paris in the summer, he wants to be promised that he will be doing the debate coverage in November. At first, like many of these proposals, Alex just blows it to the side, but she doesn't have a lot of leverage in this situation, so she tells him, I'm going to think about it. And as the two are having these discussions, the sexual tension is building and building and building and building between these two. Meanwhile, Stella spent her night not too far away in Miles' loft with him. where the pressure of the job and the Olympics and everything, it's just getting to her. And finally she decides, you know what, we need to run away. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Italy? And she's looking up flights. And she's done this thing before, but up until this point, it had kind of been a pipe dream and a joke, but this time she's dead serious, and it forces Miles to pull her aside and say, whoa, we can't do this. The two then get into a little bit of a spat, with Stella saying, you know, it's funny, right now, compared to Celine, I guess I'm easy, but the second you choose me, I become difficult. And Miles is saying, whoa, you say you want more, but that's just an excuse so you can blame me when you end it. You picked me so you'd never really have to choose. You would never even get on that plane. So stop acting like you would. Stella gets so angry, she tells him, don't even call me, and she leaves. First thing that next morning, she meets with Miles' wife, Celine, to discuss their Olympic coverage and what they're going to do. Alex has relayed the information that Bro gave her, his demands, if you will, and Celine says, okay, well, we'll tell him that he can do the coverage, but he'll never actually do the coverage. I mean, the commission's going to shut it down, and we can just put our support behind him, but they'll never allow him to actually host a debate. This is a win-win. So just tell him what he wants to hear and send him to Paris. It's set. They're going to be on stage the next day in front of a bunch of the media, and that's going to be the big surprise. The former executive of UBN, Cory, spent most of his day, though, at his mother's place. Because the previous night, he was perusing the internet, and he was thinking about that White House Correspondents' dinner. He was looking at all the photos from the dinner, and then there was one that really popped out. It was one with Fred Micklin and his mom. And the wheels started turning. Because again, up until this point, he never thought about how he got the job, but now he thinks that maybe his mom had some influence, so he goes to talk to her. And at first, the conversation starts out cordial, but then he shows her the picture and he says, come on, what did you have on Fred? I mean, what did you tell him to get me this job? But over and over again, she tells him, Cory, I didn't have anything on him. I didn't even talk about you at that dinner. I didn't pitch you to Fred. But Cory just does not believe it. This conversation boils and boils and boils until finally tea is spilled, everyone gets angry, and Cory goes in the kitchen where he finds something to distract him. It's an assisted suicide retreat in Switzerland that his mom was looking into, and he's really concerned about it. But as she tells him, Cory, I'm just coming to the acceptance of my life being over. I mean, I'm old. And at that reality that his mother is old and that she is thinking about something so serious, Cory ends up patching things up with his mom, thanking her, and going to leave. But before he does, his mom stops him and says, Cory, I really didn't have anything to tell Fred, but your friend Celine, she sure did. So now Cory's eyes are on Celine. But while Cory's worried about Wolf River, you've still got Bradley and Chip looking into Wolf River. They need to figure out who exactly that woman was in the photo with the lawyer who committed suicide. Bradley put the photo through UBN's search engine. Nothing really popped up. And Chip has an idea. He's got a friend at the Times who might be able to help them out, but he's a little difficult. Either way, Chip calls him up. They meet in a shady alley, and Chip tells him what he needs. And the guy says, okay, I'll do it, but I need something in return. I need a big story. I need you to help me out. Get me some information. So Chip goes to the one person who might be able to give him some dirt that isn't a fan of UBN at the moment, and that night he meets with Mia. And they share a bottle of wine together, they start chit-chatting, but Mia knows that something's up because her and Chip don't do this, and Chip comes right out with it. I need a story. Give me some dirt on UBN. So Mia tells him all about what's going on with Chris. Chip then gives that story to his source at the Times, and the source of the Times is going to look into who this mystery woman could be. And armed with that story, that reporter from the Times is planning on going to the Olympic press conference that Celine, Alex, Stella are all having the next day, the one that Alex and the bro are supposed to be at. He's planning on being there. Before that story takes place, though, Stella is still battling with just the stress of the job. The night before that event, she's in her office and she looks into the AI, mainly her AI. All of the talent have one of these, but she also has one, and she starts talking to it very candidly, asking if she's a bad person because of the DEI situation, how she's helped the company, but not just financially, how she has helped minorities. And she's brutally honest in this conversation. She points out all of her flaws that she has done. It's like she's looking for affirmation from herself, using this AI Stella as a pseudo-therapist. And the worst of it is, it doesn't even make her feel better. But the next day is going to end up being the worst day of her life. She arrives for the press conference, as does Stella, as does Alex, as does Celine. They're all getting ready, but there's one person who's not there, and that is the bro. And when Alex calls him up, the bro says, yeah, I'm not coming. Because what I realized is the commission likely won't back me on doing the debate, and you won't back me on doing the debate. I mean, I need reassurance. I need a guarantee that you will back me if you agree to this. And Alex can't. She can't lie on the phone in that moment. And the bro, knowing full well that they're planning on doing a bait and switch, just says, all right, sorry, I'm not coming. And that's going to leave Celine, Stella, Alex scrambling. There's no way to close a deal on Chris and get her there in that moment, and you've got all those press people expecting a big announcement. So that's when Stella comes with the idea, we'll just show them the AI. A little while later, her and Celine get on stage. They're yucking it up with the reporter, and then it comes for the big announcement. It's the AI, and at first, it is impressive. I mean, Stella is talking to it. The AI is actually joking back. But then that reporter, Chip's guy from the New York Times, stands up, and he says, hey, I have a question. Is this a talent replacement tool or just a way to keep him in line? I asked because I've heard that Chris Hunter is being denied contract parity with white anchors at UBN, and that's why she's threatening to sit out the Olympics. And while he's asking this, mind you, Mia is in the crowd. She's watching this go down. And it's obvious to everybody that Stella and Celine weren't expecting that kind of question. But just as Stella starts to answer it, the AI answers it. Honestly. She talks about how DEI is dead. They never even believed in it. They bury black anchors. They only use them when they really need them. I mean, this AI, it gets worse and worse for Stella. It's making Stella look really bad, and the only thing Stella can do is just freeze in that moment as Celine is begging her, turn it off. But as if things couldn't get worse for Stella, then the AI mentions how she's in love with Miles in front of the entire crowd, and everybody knows who Miles is. It's not only mortifying for Stella, it's embarrassing for Celine, who just gets up, closes the laptop, and walks off stage, knowing that Stella's career is over. Stella shortly leaves stage, and she hyperventilates. She's having a fit. The one thing that she hung her career on, this AI, just did her in. And that night, she only has one place to go, and that's Miles' loft, where she runs, she hugs him. At that moment, she is broken, and Miles says, you know what? Let's go. Let's get on that plane. So at least there's a glimmer of hope for Stella. She's going to resign, but at least she's going to get on the plane with the guy that she loves and go off. And the next day, that's exactly what happens. Stella resigns. On the morning show, Alex reads off the statement that Stella made. And as Cory is sitting there watching it in his hotel room, he gets the information from his assistant on Fred Micklin and Wolf River, a little bit of a connection at least. It turns out an LLC with Fred Micklin being its only employee was paid off by the Dumont family to the tune of $4.8 million. And now it all makes sense. At that White House Correspondents' Dinner, Celine pressured Fred to hire Cory and have Cory do Celine's bidding. And in return, Fred Micklin would cash in. A little while later, he heads into the UBN offices and he meets with Celine. First, they have a conversation about Stella, with Cory mentioning how this is exactly what Celine wanted the entire time, and Celine saying, actually, she did it all herself. And that's when he brings up that it's convenient that this time she didn't have anything to do with it, because the Wolf River thing, she certainly did. He does ask her why, but she just asks him, what do you want? And he wants to get his movie back up and running. That's it. She tells him that it will happen, and then he leaves, getting in the elevator. As he's leaving the building, the elevator does open up, and Raina walks in with boxes. It looks like she was let go. Cory, however, is so transfixed because he sees Bradley, and he's still hung up on her. But far away at JFK Airport, Stella is getting ready to board that plane. Before she was planning on leaving New York City, she wrote Mia a letter. A really nice letter telling her how she got off this beaten path of trying to change things, but Mia was right. She eventually did become Cory and like all the others, not really caring about diversity, but only caring about herself. She did, however, leave Mia with a parting gift, and it's a USB drive. She then simply was at the gate waiting for Miles to show up, but he doesn't. He just texts her, I'm sorry. And that's because Celine got to him first. Celine met with Miles at his loft, and she explained, there was another guy at one point, probably a better match, but that guy didn't have your drive. That's why I still love you, your drive. So right now, Miles, you need to choose. You need to choose her or me. And unfortunately for Stella, Miles chose Celine. This is crushing to Stella. She cries, but then eventually she gets up, dusts herself off, and she boards that plane to Naples. The downfall of Stella, though, was done in by that reporter who ended up coming up clutch for Chip, getting him the information he needed on who this mystery woman is. Her name is Sophia Volk. She was a quality control manager and a chemist, and she was let go from Wolf River. There's a contact number. Bradley ends up texting it, and it turns out that that number is still active, and it is still Sophia Volk's. So now Bradley at least has an in.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.